Mhm. This thought of not really caring, not caring about child abuse laws, child neglect laws, the rights of American citizens because you're an employee of the government. I really dislike it when you take advantage of people, and I didn't like going to court for 14 months and then finding out that my sons were in the wrong grades. Now I want you to give me custody of them. Do you understand that? I want you to sign confessions that for the last 7.5 years, you have had the knowledge that my wife's custody of them has caused them to not be in the right grade for 7.5 years. Now, I've never violated your protection orders. I told you that it violated the laws of the United States. But when you know it's against the law to do what you're doing, you might as well just confess. The confession of judgment. Yesterday was my son's birthday. I told you 2 days before that, or maybe 3 days before it, yes, that they're in the wrong grades. You decided to wait, and one day is now 1 year. It happens like that, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to appeal both of the judgments of the court that I'm incompetent. I'm going to sue every sheriff for their knowledge of fraud, child abuse, child abduction, kidnapping, and conspiracy. Now, I do know that the Constitution allows for a confession of treason. Yeah. Why don't you just confess today? Because I will get every fucking sheriff of the United States of America, every one of them elected, that have sworn that they would support the Constitution of the United States for the crime of treason, for having me go to court when there was no probable cause, no signed confession under the penalty of perjury, and whomever the co-worker was, myself finding out right now, treason. Now, Sheriff, you can laugh your fucking ass off, but you watch how this works. You, Sheriff Bill Benedict, will go down in this nation's history as being tried and found guilty for treason. It will happen and it will be documented as that case that gives justification for the enforcement of treason. Bill, laugh some more. You're going to be the first sheriff in probably 100 years that will be found guilty of treason, and it would be best if you just confess to it today. You refuse to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Confess to treason. Now, I noticed that some of the home prices, yes, from 2017 to 2018 have been decreasing. Yes. Not that anyone would want to be concerned about that, but I realize that what really happens, yes, is that when home prices don't go up, there are a lot of businesses dependent on building. Now, let's say that these frauds that you refuse to enforce the laws for, the forgeries of my wife's signature, Heidi Lee Budner, yeah, the forgery of the ex-official Superior Court clerk, yeah, and then the child abuse, child neglect, and child kidnapping, yeah, and then the coach and his wife being complicit in me being arrested, yes, and all the time that I had to go to court. Treason. The sheriff of Clallam County is going to go to prison for treason. Sign the confession today. Now, could you do me a favor? There is what is known as Uber, Slack, and Airbnb. Yeah. I'd like to know every IP address. Yes. Of these housing locations. Yeah. And then Uber and Slack. Pope. You know, when somebody's looking to stay someplace, and the nice part is you rent an extra room or a mother-in-law or something like that. Yeah. There's the possibility of not staying in a motel or a hotel. Mhm. And not that I would question the family's way of doing things, but I want to know all the Airbnbs and all the private residences that have rooms for rent that are not motel or hotel licensed. Yes. And are not hostels. Yes. And then I want to know. Now, there there's a big concern that the family has been hiding their relatives. They're not actual persons. You've been making what looks like people, but they're not. They're dogs. And they're any variation of dog that is not 100% human. Yeah. And your whole thought right now is that you're going into hiding, and the easiest way to do that is to not have car ownership, but to use Uber, or any of these where you don't have to be a taxi driver. Yeah. Why don't you get me all the chauffeur licenses in every state and every taxi driver that has to do a background check? Yes. Of all the actual known taxi companies? Yes. And then get me all the, well, peer-to-peer sharing of vehicles? Yes. And all of those that get paid, yes, to drive Uber or any of these other vehicles right now. I'm going to want to know. The actual employees that receive compensation in exchange for being the driver of any share car service? Yes. And if I find out that any of them are not actual American citizens, but they were twins, yes, I will sue the shit right now. Now, this county has been covering up some very fraudulent crimes, and at the tip of that is the actual child abuse that my sons have experienced for 7.5 years. Now, as a consequence of your refusal to support the Constitution, I'm going to find every fucking family member